I think we can go ahead and start. So thank you to everyone who's actually joined us today. So today we're going to be focusing mainly on our platform, Research Bookmark, and I'll demo it or just showcase the different ways that you can use it depending on your specific goal or what you're really trying to achieve. I want to take this time to sort of appreciate everyone who provided their responses when they were registering for this demo, because it's really going to help me to see how I can tailor or showcase how you can actually use the platform depending on what you're trying to learn in the UX field. Another thing is I always love questions. So if you have any other burning questions that you may have pertaining the platform or maybe something that you're trying to look for, please feel free to drop it in the Q&A section and I'll get to it once I'm done doing the demo of the platform. So to kind of like start it off, this is the platform itself, the Research Bookmark platform. So in terms of the demo, I'm really gonna break it down in 3 different parts, right? So I'm gonna break it down in collections, the search engine, and events. I know most of you guys have come across us, have learned about us through events. So I'm gonna showcase what we are doing pertaining the events as well. So I'm gonna sort of like break down the first or go to the first thing or the first feature that I want to showcase on the platform. So the first one is the RB collections, and there are 2 ways you can actually get to that section. So we do have this group of cards here where we've sort of showcased like some of the top collections that our users engage with. So you can either click on either of these collections where you're going to be taken to the specific one, or if you want to go to the collections landing page, you can just click on these view collections or come to the navbar and just click on the RB collection. So in the RB collections page, we have 3 different groups of collections. I'm going to just take a few minutes to explain what each of the collections entail. So we have the everyday collections, special collections, and UX foundational collections. So for the everyday collections, we have collections spanning from templates to methods, to tools, to vocabularies, and all these different things. Of course, I'm going to go into detail into each of them and sort of speak of different use cases on which you could actually leverage on these different things. But these everyday collections are essentially resources that you would seek or kind of come to check into or check in like maybe 4 or 5 times a week, like more frequently than you'd other resources. Maybe you're working on a project and you're trying to determine what type of tool that you're going to leverage on based on the research method that you've agreed on with your team, right? So that's like for the everyday collections. And then we have another collection called special collections. So for the special collections is essentially a collection of handpicked articles that are focused on a specific theme. So for anyone who's interested in what human-computer interactions is, maybe you're trying to pursue a master's or you're interested in pursuing a master's in HCI, we sort of put together like a list of resources from articles to books to podcasts to even institutions that you can check that actually offer HCI courses. And you can actually find all that in this specific collection. So I'm going to go into like each of them just so that you guys can actually see how it looks like. So there's another collection that we are also working on for anyone who's interested in UX research and artificial intelligence, and also UX research and Web3. So anyone who's maybe trying to pursue the UX path, but in a very specific field, we're trying to put together those resources so that you can find all those things that you need before you kind of pursue that path. The last part of the collections that we have is the foundational collections. So these are collections of articles that guide you on how to conduct end-to-end research from the onset of planning, conducting, analyzing, and presenting. So for any of you guys who've attended our workshops or our skill shops before, like you always see how we always learn them. So we always have day 1 where we do the planning and the conducting workshops, and then day 2 where we do the analyzing and the presenting. So if you don't have maybe the time to attend the skill shop or the times that we're not really running the skill shops, you can actually come and consume the different articles that we have on here. So the good thing about what we've done in regards to this foundational or UX foundational collections specifically is we've sort of broken the articles down a bit further, depending on like a specific use case. So let's say you are in the planning phase, or you're really trying to understand like the planning phase. We've really tried to highlight what are the different areas that you should consider when you're planning your research, right? So we have articles on research plans. So all you have to do is just click on that specific use case, and we're going to show you the different articles that you can read on that kind of teach you about research planning and how you should create a research plan. For anyone who's in that phase of maybe engaging with a stakeholder, we have like those articles as well in the planning research phase. So we implemented the same approach for the conducting phase as well, the analyzing phase and presenting phase as well. So if you're in the conducting phase and you're in the process of trying to recruit participants and you want to kind of go through some really good resources to kind of inform you on how you're supposed to go about it, we've included that as well. So I'd say the approach is pretty simple, where if you come in each of the specific areas of research, we sort of broken in them into like different areas, so that if you were not aware of those different areas before, first and foremost, you're aware of them or you become aware of them. And then secondly, you don't sort of like stagger, or you don't feel so confused in terms of determining, okay, which articles am I supposed to read? We've done that job for you, so you can just go ahead and read the different articles that we've actually put together that we feel are pretty much insightful, for you. So kind of going into the special collection, I just want to show you guys what we've actually been doing in regards to this. So as I said earlier, for anyone who's, let's say, is interested in pursuing the HCI path, like we've tried to put together a lot of different things. So for anyone who's maybe doesn't know what the definition of human-computer interaction is, we've put together some articles to narrate on that. And then for anyone who's interested in like institutions that are offering the HCI programs, we've put that together as well. So you can be able to see all the different institutions like Stanford that are offering the human-computer interaction course, right? For anyone who's interested in maybe books or podcasts that speak on HCI, we've sort of put those resources together as well. So we are really trying to identify or see what are people like sort of trying to pursue right now, which areas or what themes are they interested in, that we can connect with UX and UX research and sort of put together resources on that. So if you have any areas that you've been interested in pursuing that you'd like to sort of venture and pursue a career in UX research in that specific area, feel free to drop that in the chat section, and we can always kind of put that in our backlog and make sure that we get the time to put those resources together. So I'm going to go into the everyday collections, which is, I'd say, the collections that most of our users actually engage with. And I think to make this perusal a bit more interesting, I'm going to sort of use different use cases, right? So I'm going to pick a use case that one of you actually shared when you were registering for this demo. Someone said that they're interested in learning on how to break into the field, right? So one of the good things about our everyday collections is that these are collection of resources that you can sort of, I'd say, utilize more than one resource that you can actually utilize at the same time to determine how you can actually break into this field, right? So for someone who's trying to break into the field, of course, like the first things or the first major things that I would recommend for this sort of individual to pursue or to do is to either take something to help them grasp the foundational understanding of the field. So we have courses, and then something called vocabulary. So if you are trying to venture into this field, I think it helps when you're able to understand the different technical terms that are used, so that you're able to participate in different conversations that you have with your team. So we have courses, vocabularies, learning about methods is also important. And then of course, volunteering opportunities. Those are like the four, I'd say, top resources that I would of course recommend, but all of them are actually important depending on like the specific phase and the use case that you're in. So I'm gonna go into each of the different collections and just kind of take the time to sort of demonstrate or show you how you'd actually utilize this sort of collection, right? So the first one we're going to start with is the courses. So we've taken the time to sort of put together both free and paid courses. So for anyone who does not have I'd say financial means to maybe take a course, right? We've sort of made sure to, I'd say, invest a bit more in sourcing for the free courses so that you're sort of like aware of what is actually out there that you can take without having to incur any cost. For anyone who's actually able to afford a course and would like to take more of a paid course, we've also put that together. So to kind of enable you spend as less time as possible looking for what you want, we've actually implemented some filters here where you can actually be able to filter by either free courses or paid courses. So if you're looking for free courses, you can use this filter, and the results you're going to see are just results for people who are actually, or for courses that you can actually take for free. Something else I actually wanted to show as well is we actually have a search functionality that you can use if you're trying to look for like a specific course, for example. So let's say you were trying to look for a course on quantitative research. So you can actually come and type in quantitative. And as you can actually see, sorry, I think I made a typo there. So as you can actually see, there are quite a number of different courses that you can actually take on quantitative research. And we have a bunch of free courses as well as a paid course as well. So if you're trying to look for a course maybe for beginners, right? So maybe you can just come and type in beginners. And we already have like some different courses that you can actually pursue, especially if you're in the beginner stage. So one of the things that I would encourage you guys to actually pursue is to really leverage on the search functionality, because as you know, we are always updating the collections of resources on the platform. So they are going to build up with time. So utilizing the search bar, it really helps you to quickly get what you're actually looking for. Something else I'll also kind of jump into next is the vocabulary. So we've actually tried to put together a lot of UX, quote unquote, jargons that are used in the field that you can actually sort of go through to kind of see exactly what each term actually means. So I'm going to show you guys something like very special that we've done in regards to this. But we've actually enlisted a lot of vocabularies. Some are, of course, methods, but at the same time, like it still can be a new vocabulary to some individuals. So for any maybe term that you could be actually trying to look for, let's say, for example, your research manager tells you that if you're conducting like a usability testing, they say that one of the things they'd like to uncover is like what is the error rate on the product itself, right? Or what is like the misclick rate, or like for you to do an error analysis to see what kind of errors that your product is actually showing, right? So you may be curious, okay, what's an error analysis, right? So if you actually just come and type in error, or if you just type in an error analysis, you can be able to kind of see that term on here, and you can be able to kind of see what it actually means in terms of a definition. So something we've actually done as well is, say the definition is not enough for you. Like you're like, okay, I really need to learn more on what this error analysis is, or I really need to learn more on what cognitive bias is. So you can actually come and click on the term itself, and we're actually going to take you directly to the search engine where you can actually be able to, I'd say, gain access to a lot of other different resources that can help you to learn more about what cognitive bias is. So we have articles from the likes of Maze. We have different YouTube videos that are explaining about it as well. And we also have even like another sort of redefined term on what cognitive bias is, right? Something else I also want to show you guys as well is, let's go now into the volunteering opportunity. So I've been getting a question from a number of people in regards to, so they're done like with a program, for example, right? And they're trying to figure out what they're going to do so that they can gain enough experience and have something to add to their portfolio. And one of the things that I always recommend is finding an opportunity where you can work on a real life project, right? So one of the things that we've uncovered that has become a bit possible for people to be able to gain that opportunity is working with like sort of organizations that hire or that seek volunteer professionals. So talk about volunteer professionals, they could span from UX designers to developers to even UX researchers, right? So what we actually did was we actually sort of put together a list of volunteer opportunities or organizations that you can actually go and check out that periodically, usually I'd say highlight or advertise like opportunities or organizations or businesses that are looking for volunteer professionals. So they could, and if you actually peruse through like the listings that they always provide, you could find a business or an organization that is looking for a UX researcher to volunteer for, to volunteer in their project, right? So this is like a really nice list that I would encourage you to go through. Most of these organizations do have Slack channels. So anytime you click on this and it takes you to their website, you can just check for like their Slack channel link and just join the Slack channel, and you'll be able to meet other volunteers and stay up to date with the different opportunities that they're always highlighting. So the other section that I'm gonna talk about is methods, right? So for each and every individual here, I believe you are trying to conduct a research study, right? So it could be a personal one, it could be you're working in a certain team, right? Or you've been given like I'd say a challenge, like a UX challenge to do, a UX research challenge to do, right? So whether you're doing research or you're doing design, like there are always different methods that you leverage on to sort of collect the data that you actually need, right? So if you're in that sort of situation where you have already met with the stakeholders or you're already working on a project and you've already determined what the goals of your research are, sometimes the goal of your research do determine the methods that you're actually going to use to sort of conduct your research, right? So the thing is, I know there are those most commonly methods that we are aware of, the likes of user interviews, usability testing, card sorting, cognitive walkthrough, and all that kind of stuff. But there are so many other methods that a lot of people are not really aware of that you could leverage on in some of the research projects that you're actually working on. So you've actually taken the time to put together a list of, I'd say, hundreds or more than hundreds of different methods that you can actually use. And something that we've actually done in regards to this is, aside from providing the definition of the method itself, we've linked articles that we feel do justice in terms of really providing a well broken down information of what that method is and how you can actually use it, right? So say you're looking for, let me pick a method. Let me see if we actually have that. Yeah, so eye tracking, right? So eye tracking is one of the research methods that I have seen being used in some scenarios, but it's not like really utilized on a lot. But if you happen to learn in a project where one of the research methods that you're expected to leverage on is eye tracking, you can actually come here and sort of at least see what the meaning of eye tracking is, but then you can be able to sort of see or kind of go into, just click on this link and it's going to take you to an article that has really explained what eye tracking is, when to use it, how to use it, like how many participants you might need and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's another resource that I would highly encourage that you actually check. The other resource that I'm going to take some time explaining or talking about is the template section. So for anyone who's conducting research, sometimes you may want to create an artifact of your own, but if you don't really have experience creating an artifact by yourself, sometimes leveraging on templates is a good thing because at least you get to have an idea of how an artifact is supposed to essentially look like and what is supposed to be contained in an artifact, right? So what we've actually done with our artifacts is we've sort of taken the time to really construct or write these guides or templates in a way that it's more of an informative angle first, right? So maybe you're not just trying to download a template, but you're really trying to learn how should I sort of, or how is this template supposed to function, right? How is it supposed to help me? What am I supposed to have in that specific template? So we've actually taken the time to create a template, but sort of like include a lot of information or additional information and guides to sort of enable you to understand, what are you supposed to do in like specific parts, right? So this is just like one of the templates that we actually have. And for anyone who's now interested in sort of accessing the template more, you can actually go ahead and download the template, and you can be able to sort of see the different things that we actually have. Something interesting we've actually done in regards to the template is we've not only created a template, but we've also created it or formulated it in a way that you can be able to see how it's actually used in a specific scenario, right? So let's say you're looking for a user template, but you have no idea on like how you'd actually create the actual template itself. So we've actually taken the time to create a sample template. So we've actually viewed this sample template. This is a user interview sample template for like an e-commerce website, right? That sells candles. So you kind of go to the extent of not only making it as realistic as possible, but also like kind of showing you like how the questions for a user interview template for a website that sells candles would actually look like, and the type of questions that you would actually have. So, this is like just one of the things that I would encourage you guys sort of, go and take some time going through them. But these, like, I'd say they're really nice. I'm sorry. But I'd like to point out that we've really taken the time to really make these templates a bit more unique and add a more beneficial value than what you'd normally find if you're looking for other templates online. The other resource that I'm gonna go to is the communities. So one thing that I've sort of discovered over time when it comes to communities is the importance of joining a community that is really engaging and it's responsive, especially for a newbie or a beginner, right? The last thing you want to do is join a community where you ask questions and it takes a week or your question is never really responded to, right? So we've really taken the time to put together communities that, one, we feel they're active, they're responsive, and they are always open to people who are actually transitioning to the field or people who are actually in the beginner stage. And something else we've actually done as well is we've tried to gather as many different communities across different platforms, right? So there are communities on Slack, there are communities on LinkedIn, on Facebook, there are communities on Meetup, on Discord, and we've actually enabled sort of like put that together so that people can be able to sort of find the community that they need on whichever platform that they are more comfortable with. Something else we've done with these communities is sort of describe the kind of audience that would fit or is the right fit for this type of community, so that if you're trying to be a bit more specific with the community that you're trying to join, you can actually be able to kind of find that, right? So let's say if you are a person who's maybe transitioning from academia or from PhD to UX, right? So we've sort of like described like the PhD to UX community, like what type of people is actually looking for. If you're a quantitative researcher and you're looking for a community to join, these are like some communities that you can actually join, right? And we've taken the time to describe what's the kind of audience that tends to join this type of community. So one of the filters we've implemented in this bit is the platform. So if you're trying maybe to look for communities on Facebook, if you tend to maybe spend your time on Facebook and you're trying to look for UX communities in Facebook, you can actually use this filter. And as you can see, this is a list of communities that you can actually join on Facebook, right? If you are more of a Slack person and looking for communities to join on Slack, these are communities that you can actually join on Slack. So we are trying to continuously build this list. And another thing that we're also trying to do as well is one of the things that we are planning to introduce is like a location aspect of these communities. We're trying to pull together as many communities from all over the world as we can. We want to be able to showcase that, there are other communities outside of the US, there are communities in Europe, in Asia, there are communities in Africa. So if you are trying to maybe connect with other UX professionals outside of the geographical region that you're used to, you can be able to find those communities. the last but not least, I'm going to talk about tools. I think this is one of the, I'd say, most important collection that I think every UX professional should look into, because in one way or another, like, you'll always leverage on a tool whenever you're conducting a research project. If you're scheduling or conducting the user interviews, there are tools that you're going to use. If you're analyzing your research, there are tools that you're going to use, right? If you are presenting your research, there are tools that you're also going to use as well, right? So with the tools, what we've actually done is sort of indicate the specific use case that the tool can actually be used for. So if you, let's say you're conducting a research to understand the information architecture of a website, right? So one of the methods that you can leverage in such a project is card sorting, right? So let's say you're not aware of which tool to use, or maybe you're aware of a tool that you can use. Like Maze is very common or is very known for conducting card sorting. So let's say you're trying to seek an alternative tool that you can use other than Maze, right? So all you have to do is when you come to the tool section, you just need to click on this filter and then look for the use case itself. So in this case, card sorting. So when you click on card sorting, it's actually going to show you all the different tools that you can actually use for card sorting apart from Maze. So this tool, like for example, this card sort tool is actually a free tool that you can use for card sorting, right? There is also Dynomap and there's Crowd as well. Like they're really good tools for card sorting. I've actually had a chance to test those ones as well. But there are quite a number of other tools that, you know, do card sorting along other other methods that you can actually, or other research methods that you can actually use those tools for, right? So one thing I'll actually point out is most of the tools nowadays are really trying to provide more than one use case. So like in the likes of Maze, for example, there are many things that you can do with it. You can conduct A/B testing, you can do card sorting, you can do concept testing, 5-second testing, and all that kind of stuff, right? So finding like a tool that sort of focuses on one specific use case, nowadays, like very few tools maybe focus on one use case, but most tools are really trying to diversify the different ways that you can actually use them, right? So when you come across different tools, like always check to see if it has more than one use case. And I feel like economically, it makes sense if you can find a tool that has multiple use cases, but has a price that makes sense, right? So that way you don't have to invest in a lot of different tools all at once. So that is like one thing that we always try to do, where we can try to like show you a tool that does more than one use case. So let's say, for example, you want a tool that is doing card sorting and it's also doing A/B testing as well, right? So you can actually be able to see a tool that has more than one specific use case that you're actually looking for. And you can be able to now, click on this and go and check that tool out and decide if it's the tool that you're looking for. And then of course, decide if it's something that you can actually be able to afford. One thing that we are working on in regards to the tools collection, we are trying to work on bringing on a pricing aspect so that you can be able to also filter by price and see if you're trying to look for a tool that does A/B testing and usability testing, but it's low cost, you can be able to find that. We'll try and look for like free tools, but I've not really come across free tools, to be honest. Most of them are either premium or paid, right? So maybe there are things that you can do with a free plan, but most of them are actually paid, right? So we'll try to put that together so that at least you can be able to filter by maybe a low cost tool or, a high-end tool depending on your budget, right? But if there are other aspects that you guys use to determine a tool that you're going to go for, feel free to share that with us as well. And we can always sort of see how we can integrate that into the filter, the filter feature, and enable you to really find the tool that you're actually looking for. So the next thing that I'm going to sort of take the time to go through, I think I'm going to just pause a bit and maybe go through the, let's see. Okay, I don't think I'm seeing any questions yet. So I think I'm just going to go to the search engine itself. and kind of show you guys the different ways that you can actually use the search engine. I think this is like one of my most exciting things about the platform, right? So the good thing about the search engine is if you're not really like finding what you want in our collections, like I know we're always trying to put together as much as we can, but if you're really trying to look for maybe something that is very, very specific, but you're not able to find it in our collections, we can actually be able to do that using the search engine, right? So one thing I'm going to point out about our search engine is it kind of takes note of your maybe like what you've searched for before. So you can actually be able to leverage on your search history in the event that you always search maybe for something specific, right? So we always try to maybe have it capture like the last things that you fetched, sorry, the last thing that maybe you searched for, so that in case that's the same thing you're searching for again, you can always click on that bit and it can kind of go and kind of directly take you back to the search results that you kind of like looked into before. Right, so I'm gonna pick something, one of my search histories here. I'm gonna pick on benchmark testing, right? So our search engine is, I'd say UI wise, it kind of looks the same way as you sort of like seen other search engines look like, right? But the one thing that we've actually done with our search engine is we've really tried to make it specific to kind of fetch like UX data specifically. And we've sort of structured it in a way that the categories that you'll actually find on the search engine are very different from other categories that you'd find in other search engines. And we have pretty much good reasons as to why we've actually structured it that way. So, so one thing that you're going to find when you actually come to our search engine is this first section, we've actually committed it to at least availing a definition. So say you're trying to search for something. In most cases, I've noticed like when sometimes someone is searching for something on search engines, like sometimes I'm always trying to look for what the meaning of whatever I'm trying to search for, right? So what we've actually tried to do is we try to avail a way that we can at least show you like what the definition of what you're searching for and avail that. So for anyone who maybe like who's curious about like what benchmark in UX means, like we've actually provided a definition that they can actually check to see what it actually means. Aside from that, we've of course leveraged or looked for relevant information from credible sources on what benchmarking in UX is, how to conduct UX benchmarking on your product. And we've actually fetched that from like the likes of NNG Group, from the likes of UXPin, user testing, UserZoom, and even from other social media platforms like LinkedIn, right? So one of the things we've actually done in regards to our search results, we've really tried to make it easier for you to, I'd say, save time when it comes to searching, because searching, I believe it's one of the things that kind of like takes time for a normal individual. So I don't know if you guys have ever done this where when you search for something on a search engine, you end up opening like 4 to 5 search results and you kind of end up opening them in like different tabs, right? And then you kind of go through it to determine if that is what you're looking for. And then you close out if it's not the one, go to the next tab, do the same thing until you find one of the articles that maybe fits whatever you're looking for, right? So what we've tried to do is we sort of try to streamline that process by enabling you to sort of like see a summary of the article itself, and then you can get to determine if you really want to go ahead and view that article or not. So we've actually introduced something called summary or an article summary. So with the article summary, you can at least get to see what this article is about and what it discusses. So if you actually go through this and it piques your interest and you're like, oh, I'd actually like to learn more or to read this article and kind of see what more it has to offer, right? So you can actually go ahead and click go to site, and it always opens up the article itself, and your tab for RB will actually not be closed out. So you can always go back and kind of continue your search journey. Something else we've actually done in regards to our search results is we've actually introduced a feature called citation. So if you're, say you're conducting market research right? To maybe convince your team why you think you should conduct benchmark testing, right? Maybe you're trying to convince your stakeholders why benchmark testing is a good method to leverage on and something that they should actually invest on budget-wise. If you're conducting like some research to pull together this type of information, one of the things we've sort of put together is like a citation feature so that in case you want to cite or to back up your research, you can always come and leverage on whichever citation feature that you actually want to leverage on. This is also practical for anyone who's either writing a paper or doing their thesis, and you're always required to cite your sources. So if you actually happen to use RB to look for whatever information that you're looking for and you find it here, you can always leverage on our citation feature and just copy and paste it. But one thing we've always encouraged all our users is to sort of consult the appropriate guidelines in case your citation style may differ in the organization that you're in. Something else we can actually do in every of the search results we have on the platform is you can actually copy. So anytime you actually copy this, it copies to the clipboard. So you can actually paste it in whichever social media platform or whichever platform you want to paste it on. If you want to send it to someone via WhatsApp, you can be able to do that. If you want to paste it on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever, you can always be able to do that. And then if you want to save this particular source so that you can come and view it later, you can always click on save and your source is actually going to be saved. And when it's actually saved, like we have actually shown that saved searches thing. So you can actually always go back and sort of go to the saved searches and kind of see what we actually have on there. So I'm going to take the time to kind of go through the saved searches, but I kind of want to go through all these other different things that we currently have at the moment. So I'm going to go into the categories that we actually have on the search engine itself. So we have a category that we call social results. So one of the things that, or one of the, I'd say, search behaviors that we've kind of like seen over time is people do not like only go to like the search engine to look for information. People are leveraging a lot on communities and forums, right? So sometimes if you're looking for maybe something specific, going to see what other people are talking about it can help you learn more than maybe just going to conduct a search on a search engine, right? So what we've actually tried to do is we've tried to pull together information from all these different social media platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit, and Quora, so that if in this scenario, you're trying to find out what people are posting and sharing about benchmark UX testing on LinkedIn, you can actually be able to find that information here, right? If you're trying to find out what this people are actually talking about when it comes to UX benchmark testing on Reddit, you can also be able to find that as well. If it's on Quora, you can also be able to find that as well. So you can actually be able to, I'd say, quickly access this type of information and then have an easier time, like, going to Reddit itself to like that specific post, right? So that is like one thing that we've actually done that some of our users have really found pretty much like very beneficial, right? And we've also like applied the same summarization aspect so that you can be able to kind of see what like the main highlights that were mentioned or the main highlights from like the responses that people gave or like the Quora post, for example, and then it can help you to see if you actually want to go and check that out further. Something else we've also done as well is we've actually included a category called papers. So for anyone who is trying to sort of go for more of a deep dive approach, maybe like short articles are not your thing and you want to read a paper that was written by somebody on benchmark testing or whichever subject you're currently seeking for at that moment, we actually put together papers from ResearchGate, Google Scholar, and academia. So you can always come and find PDFs or research papers on, like benchmark testing. Maybe somebody did a study on it and they have like some really good insights that you could use to maybe share with your team or something of the sort. right? So if you're the kind of person who likes going through papers, I would recommend, or who likes going through articles or research papers, this is one category I would recommend you come and look for. And the good thing about this is, regardless of what you're searching for, like there are always like papers that you'll find that are speaking on that specific subject. So the papers are not really, I'd say, limited to like maybe a specific term, as depending on what you're searching for on a search engine, we'll always try to find a paper that is talking about or covers whatever topic you're actually looking for. So the next one is actually courses. So I think aside from seeking for information to sort of just superficially inform you on what you're looking for, I know some of our users could be maybe trying to look for like courses, or maybe interested if there's actually a course that is available based on whatever they're actually looking for. So apart from the list of courses that we actually showed you guys earlier, so if maybe you're trying to look for other type of courses, you can actually be able to search for that using our search engine. And we've actually tried to pull the different courses from the major platforms like LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, Coursera, edX. Of course, we're working to see other platforms that we could actually add, but these are like some of the major platforms that we feel kind of list a lot of courses, and UX courses are among some of those courses that are actually listed out. So if you are maybe trying to learn about UX benchmark testing, we do have like some different courses that you can check here that sort of speak about benchmark testing. If maybe you are looking for, maybe you're trying to learn usability testing in this case, let me just type usability testing. So you can actually be able to kind of find courses on that, right? So this is like a course on LinkedIn Learning on what is usability testing. If you go on Coursera, you'll find a course called What is Usability? And then of course we have Conduct UX Research and Test Early Concepts. There is usability testing with Hotjar. So there are quite a number of like different courses that you can actually be able to fish out using our search engine, depending on what you're actually searching for. So the last one that I'm going to talk about is the jobs section. So I think one of the things that I've noticed, actually with what is currently happening right now, is people are always looking for jobs, right? So we've actually tried to sort of use like the major platforms that are listing jobs, that list thousands and thousands of jobs, to kind of like enable you to find or to see what jobs are actually available depending on what you're looking for, right? So let's say you're looking for usability testing or usability testing jobs. Okay, I know we don't have like specifically usability testing jobs, like UX researchers or product designers do that. So let's say you're looking for a product design role, right? So if you look at LinkedIn, for example, there are some results where if you actually click on them, it can take you to like the LinkedIn page itself, where you can be able to peruse like product designer jobs specifically. And they're also like specific to location. So if you're trying to look for jobs in the United Kingdom, we have sort of tried to create a search results that when you click on it, it takes you to LinkedIn, but the only jobs you're going to see are jobs like in the United Kingdom, for example, right? The other instances where we've actually also been able to fetch a specific job itself, and the company that is actually hiring for that job, for example. So if you actually click on this, we try to use our summarizer. It's still like a work in progress, but we've actually tried to leverage on our summarization feature to see if we can actually summarize the job description itself to like the most important things. And then you can actually go through it and see if it's actually a right fit for you before committing to actually go and check that job listing itself, right? So let's say you are trying to look for a product designer role, but in a very specific space, for example. So let's say you are trying to look for a role in the Web3 space, right? So you'll actually notice here that we have a number of different companies that are hiring for like a lead product designer in the Web3 space. We have like these guys, for example, Crypto Recruiters, they're hiring a product designer. So you can actually click on that and you can be able to see what this job is about. So the company is looking for someone with experience in designing web products, as well as experience in the cryptocurrency industry, right? So if you feel like this can at least convince you to go and check out that job further, you can, be able to go ahead and do that, right? So that is like another thing that, we've sort of seen some of our users actually leverage on, and we've actually seen some of the users love this feature once they've actually discovered it. So, I'd encourage you guys to just come on here, test out the search engine, try searching for the different things that you're looking for, and then see, the different things that you can actually find on this job search engine. Another thing that I'll actually talk about is especially when it comes to jobs, is one advice I would give is for people to really be, I'd say, flexible in terms of the titles, right? So I know most of the titles that people are used to, especially when it comes to UX research, is you're either looking for UX researcher or you're looking for user researcher, right? But the way the industry is, and depending on how companies have been posting and hiring, some companies use entirely different titles, right? So you can actually come and search for like a title that I know is not like really used a lot, but it's in the UX space, is something like an insight manager, right? So an insight manager is essentially somebody who actually does research, and they handle a lot of like data, and like all they do is like sort of like come up with resources, or come up with insights, right? So that they can actually be able to inform a team. So an insight manager or an insight researcher is actually a title that you can also use to search for a job, right? Especially if actually job hunting. So there's this guy on LinkedIn, is called Rajiv, who actually created a really interesting post kind of showing like other alternative role titles that you can actually use when you're actually searching for jobs, right? And the good thing about even this is you can actually come and type location and see if it's actually going to provide roles like based on location, for example, right? So you can actually see that I've typed Insight Manager Kenya, and it's actually shown me, of course, like 25 jobs for Insight Managers in Kenya, but it's also shown me a specific role for an Insight and Impact Manager in Kenya, right? So you can actually come and search for a role using a location. So let me actually try this, see if it's actually going to show us something. Okay, so it seems there are quite a number of jobs in Ghana as well. There's Insight Manager, there is Analytics Manager. So you can actually come and type. What the good thing about the search engine is you can use different factors, right, or different elements. So you can play around with different job titles. You can key in the industry that you're interested in, and you can also key in the location. So if you're looking for a UX research role in healthcare in the United Kingdom, you can actually be able to find that using the search engine. So the last bit that I'm going to touch on is our events, right? So one of the ways to keep track with RB affiliated events on RB is actually by just clicking on this item that we actually have on this top section. So this is the one place where we are always updating the next event or the upcoming events that we actually have on the platform. So you can actually always come to this page, and you can be able to see some information about the event, the speakers for the event. And the good thing is you can also register for this event on the platform without having to go on Eventbrite, right? So we're always updating this. Anytime an event is over and we have another one, like we're always updating it. So if you're always curious about what events we are carrying out, right, you can always come and click on this and you can always find an event. Something else we've actually been working on as well is we are trying to put together an event calendar where we're not only showcasing our own events, but we're also showcasing like other events that we think could actually be beneficial for people to actually attend. And these events are spanning from webinars to conferences, right? So if there are any upcoming conferences, like for the month of June, for example, like we're taking the time to sort of like put that together. So if you are maybe struggling to like locate an event or find like the next UX event, whether it's a webinar or a conference that you'd like to attend, you can actually use our events calendar to kind of see like what is upcoming, right? And we always avail a way for you to be able to go and register for that respective event. So, those are like just some of the things that I'd highlight about the platform overall. So, yes. Let me see if there are some questions that I can that I can answer to. All right, so beyond simply finding a tool or conference, why are you building this database? What's the core concept behind it? All right, so that's a very nice question. So the reason we actually built this database was we wanted to create a way where UX professionals can sort of like not struggle or strain when they're actually looking for resources. So one thing I'll actually appreciate about the UX community is that we are very generous, right? Like we're always creating content to share, but the problem is we're always, sharing it in like different places. We are repetitively creating these resources. So I don't know if you guys have come across like there's a Google Doc there, and there's a Google Sheet there, and there's an Airtable there. But then sometimes you come across these resources and like they're the same thing. So maybe someone may have put together a list of books, but then you have one person who put a list of books in a Google Doc, another one in an Excel sheet. So not unless you save that resource, the moment like you've not saved it or you've forgotten about it, you'll have to go back to the community and try to see if anyone saved it and can share it with you. So I feel like sometimes it becomes a hassle for some people. So you're always trying to figure out, like, how can I put these things together? So what normally you guys end up doing is, or what normally we end up doing as UX professionals is, you end up creating your own bookmark list. So if you come across a resource, you bookmark it and you save it in your folder. And I don't know how many people have a good experience accessing things on their bookmarks. Like I have bookmarked a lot of things, but I won't lie, I don't go through them, right? And they're not even organized in a way that I'd want them to be organized. I don't even have the time to organize them, right? So what we've tried to do is sort of put together or kind of all these resources in one place, so that if you're one person who really loves going through books or trying to track what books have actually been published, like you always know that, oh, I need to find out what's the latest book that has been published, right? So the moment that you think about that, you always know that if you go on research bookmark, you know exactly where to go to access the books collection. So you can always be able to kind of like figure that out. I want to assume that experience is much better than thinking, oh, I need to see what book has actually been published. Let me look through my bookmark and see that Google Sheet or Google Doc that I had saved like a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago. I want to believe the first experience is a bit more seamless, right? Another reason why we actually put together this database was we are trying to create a global archive where we can list out as many different UX resources from all over the world to sort of also like, I'd say, create a lot of awareness about UX and also enable people to realize that UX is actually conducted in different parts of the world, right? So I think because of that sort of lack of exposure or awareness, I feel like a lot of people may assume that there isn't a lot of UX communities maybe outside of the US, like there are no communities in Asia or there are no communities in Africa, but there are a lot of communities that I could list out that are in Africa and they're in Asia. And that is what we're really trying to do with RB, so that if you're really trying to build your network and you want to connect and converse with other UX professionals in Asia or in Africa or in South America, for example, so that you guys can have a discussion on how is UX conducted there? How is UX conducted where you are? Like this is like one of the places that we would like you guys to be able to come and be able to see like what is actually available outside of my horizon, outside of my own circle, right? What community exists outside of where I am? what tools are used in like maybe a specific area, what tools are used in, I don't know, Kenya, for example, what tools are used in Indonesia, right? So that is what we're really trying to do, sort of one, create one central place that people can come to so that they don't have to struggle by going through scattered resources. Two, we are trying to sort of build a global village to help people connect with other UX professionals from different parts of the world and sort of create awareness about UX in general. So that's one of the reasons we sort of built this database. Is there a paid version? Yes, we actually do have a paid version. So right now, for anyone who does not have an account on the platform, when you create an account, you have like a 7-day trial period to try out the platform. So like you do not need to provide a credit card or anything, right? So as long as you have an account, you have a 7-day trial period to like test out and check out the different things that we actually have. And once the trial period is over, that's when like you're actually required to upgrade. So our payment options are actually, I'd say, very friendly. So we actually have a monthly, so we actually have one plan which you can pay either on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis. And right now we are actually, like, for anyone who's actually attended these demos, we're actually offering like a code that you can like leverage on to like pay for kind of like upgrade to the paid version at a discounted level, right? So there's a code that one of my teammates have shared, the RB June 23. So you can actually use that to get to upgrade and to sort of subscribe to the platform at a discounted rate, right? So yeah, we do have like a paid version. So one of the ways to I think once like you've run out of the trial period, like there's something that's gonna pop up showing you the trial period has ended, and it provide you a way to be able to go and upgrade. So once like you are actually upgrading, I would recommend using this code to actually upgrade. So the code that we've actually put out, it's valid until the 11th. So for anyone who'd actually like to leverage on that code, you can actually go ahead and use it before the 11th. And the thing that you only need to do is, let me just quickly, this account is a paid one. I'm just trying to see if I can show you guys one of the accounts, essentially how to go to that specific portion. So all you actually need to do is, let's say you are creating an account today, or you already have an account, right? And you're still on the free trial. So all you need to do is just click on this specific bar, and then it's going to take you to our pricing page. And then you can choose whichever plan you want to pick on. And both, like, the code applies to either of the plans. So you can actually go and apply that code, and you'll be able to pay for the product or pay for the platform at a discounted rate. Let me see which other question you guys might have. Okay. All right. The post from Rajiv. Okay. I think it's actually on LinkedIn. I'll have the team reshare or repost that post tomorrow in on our LinkedIn company page. So if you're on LinkedIn and you haven't followed us yet, please make sure to follow our company page. We're always posting different resources. So we'll actually make sure to repost Rajiv's post on our page tomorrow, and you guys can be able to see that post and see exactly what I was talking about. Do you have a section for reports on UX research, design, organized by companies? That's a very, very good question. So that's something we're actually working on right now. We've actually been talking with different companies to see if there are any like case studies and reports that they are open to sharing with like the rest of the world, and we'll actually be listing that on the platform. And those companies will like range from agencies to like SaaS companies and other companies in different sectors. So maybe we are trying to gather a case study or look for a case study on like healthcare or education, for example, right? You'll be able to actually find that on the platform. So that is something that we are currently working on. All right. This is a nice idea, but what kind of UX research did you do that motivated the investment in building this? Okay. So this is actually a funny question. So the way RB started was actually very simple. It actually started from a problem that we ourselves were actually facing, right? So when I actually started working on this idea with my mentor, we initially built it as a way for me to be able to learn about UX research and sort of create a library that would enable me to access all the different things. So my mentor would always like upload it or update you the different resources that he wanted me to go through. And that's how it sort of like started, right? So after some time, we sort of continued like building on it and adding resources to it. When we started bringing in interns, that's the place that we always took them to sort of go to and like access resources and read about UX research. So reached a point where we decided to, I'd say, take the risk or take the bull by its horns and sort of we wanted to actually find out. So what we actually did was we decided to conduct like to run a research on it and see if there are other people who would actually find this beneficial. So what we actually did was we actually went ahead and launched it. So we actually launched Research Bookmark as a Notion site. So we're actually a Notion site, like the very first 1.5 years, right? It was actually running as a full Notion site. So we actually launched it as a Notion website. And then we actually started like, I'd say sharing it in like the different communities. And we noticed that people are actually coming to the platform to consume these different resources, right? So that is what sort of informed us that there are people who are actually facing a similar problem that we were facing. So once we actually noticed that, we dived into now like true research, like coming up with research goals, recruiting users. For that moment, we're just like pure researchers. So we were reaching out to researchers and conducting research on researchers and just really trying to understand their experiences consuming, locating, accessing, and consuming different resources. And that is what led Research Bookmark to what it is today. So yeah. Right. I don't think I have like any other question. I just realized there's one more thing that I left out that I feel is very important. So for those people who actually engage with us when it comes to events, like we always record our events, right? So for anyone who'd like to access the different events that we are always holding, we always upload our recordings an hour or 2 hours after the event, right? So we've actually conducted webinars that are targeted to the paths of someone who's actually getting into the industry, right? So as you can see, the very first webinar we held was how to grow as a UX researcher, right? And then the next one was crossing over to a career in UX research, followed by getting a job in UX research, to UX research portfolio creation and management, to UX research vocabularies. And then we now started diving into like the skill shops, where we actually have hands-on workshops to teach you how to plan, conduct, analyze, and present research, right? So we've continuously held webinars where we talk about different topics. So if you are trying to figure out how to engage with stakeholders for your research and how to convince them to buy into your research and how to determine what are they trying to find out with your research so that you can be able to conduct your research the right way, right? We have a webinar on that. If you're trying to learn about UX deliverables, we have a webinar on that. If you're trying to learn about how to collaborate with your cross-functional team members, how can you be of value to your design team, to your development team, there's a webinar for that. And something else we also started doing was we started running a series that we are calling mini skill shops. So mini skill shops are a version of the skill shops that we always hold once a year, which run for 3 hours a day to a 45 to a 1 hour session where we tackle a very specific subject, right? So far we've actually held 5 mini skill shops where we've tackled different subjects. So one of them we've actually tackled is analyzing data research. research data, sorry. So if you're trying to figure out how to run or how to analyze research data, we've actually run a mini skill shop where we've actually taught people how to analyze research using Dovetail, right? Anyone who's maybe trying to figure out how to create a portfolio, we did run a mini skill shop recently on that. And then the last mini skill shop that we ran was on personas versus archetypes. So the thing about our mini skill shops is they're usually very specific, and we always try to ensure that we have an exercise that people can actually run or carry out so that they gain a deeper understanding on the specific topics that they're interested in. I think one thing that I'd like to know is what topics are you guys interested in when it comes to the mini skill shops that we're always running? What topic are you interested in gaining more hands-on experience that you'd like us to cover? And we'll actually put that on our calendar. So feel free to just share that with us, and we'll always put, we'll find a way to sort of create those mini skill shops, and you guys can have a chance to attend them and ask the instructors any questions that you may actually have. All right. Last but not least, we do have a Discord channel that we actually created. And the goal of this Discord channel was to really get a chance for my team and I to interact with the people who are actually using our product. So if you are someone who's consistently using the Research Bookmark platform and you would like to, one, meet other Research Bookmark users, two, maybe report any issues that you're actually facing, three, you'd like to throw in like a feature request on something that you'd like us to do on the platform, and four, you'd like to gain access to like the different demos that we have, or you'd like to request maybe a specific demo showing you how to use a certain feature, or trying to show you how you can achieve a certain goal, just go ahead and join our Discord channel. Like, we're always interacting with our users there. So yeah. All right. I think that's it for now. So thank you so much for joining us today. I really hope this demo was informative, and I really hope you've been able to learn the different ways that you can actually use the platform. There is so much more things that you can actually do. So I think this was more of a generic demo show, kind of trying to highlight all the different features that we have and how you can actually use them. But we're also going to be running other demos as well every month, kind of tailoring them to be like a bit more specific, right? So let's say it's someone who's maybe trying to conduct a certain research on a specific thing, right? So we're going to be doing a demo showing you like how would Research Bookmark come into play for that specific scenario, right? So yeah, really happy that you guys were able to join us and learn one thing or two. So thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day. All right.